You know what I just thought about? Y'all made me come all the way over to turn off the fan when y'all could have turned off the fan.
Oh, well, I didn't. Well, she said.
I didn't even see.
Operation turn on, turn off a fan is the same as any other fan.
I don't know how to turn it off. Click the switch.
Oh.
It's a brand new day. Wake up every morning and say, it's a brand new day. Take a good day, make it great, okay? 'Cause if you got some lemons, make some lemonade. Yeah, taste those clouds away.
We believe that you can love Africa together with us by giving to support organizations like CLife, who exist to address a number of these foundational African problems. CLife is an African-led Christian non-profit organization that trains African leaders to lead by serving with integrity and excellence for God's glory. CLife provides practical solutions to these problems by training young professionals within a biblical worldview, training them on essential soft skills that are equipping these African leaders to be the solution to many of the socioeconomic problems they encounter in their communities. Give today to support this work. Show your own love for Africa through the generosity of your donation.
Hello, and welcome to Women of Abundant Wealth, where we aspire women to be healthy, wealthy, and whole. I'm your host, Kathy.
I'm Shamila.
And I'm Lisa.
We have a very special guest here today with us, Miss Sheila. And Sheila, I do not want to mess up your last name, so could you please pronounce it for us?
I knew that was coming. Okay, Ngolesueh.
Ngolesueh.
You got it. Ngolesueh.
Ngolesueh.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for being here with us.
It's really my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. No problem.
So, Sheila, can you give us a little history about yourself?
Sure. Well, I am originally from Cameroon, and if you don't know where that is, that's in West Central Africa.
Okay.
So the countries that we know a lot are Nigeria. So we're right neighboring Nigeria, and so that's where I grew up. I grew up in a single mother home. Really had a very beautiful childhood, I would say. But where I grew up was in a place where I always knew that when the time came, I was gonna pursue the American dream, although I was in Africa.
Hey.
You know, that dream has traveled pretty far. Yeah. So I mean, I grew up. My mom studied here, and we went back home, and that's where we grew up. And so she'd always told us when we graduate from high school, we'll come to the U.S. for.
Now, when you say we, you have other siblings?
I do. I have 3 other siblings. One is here in New York, and 2 are back in Cameroon.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So growing up in Cameroon, I knew that after high school I would come to the U.S. And but unfortunately, when that time came, my mom could not afford for me to come here, so she sent me to Kenya.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I was not happy.
You were expecting to be in the United States.
I wanted to come to America. You know, everyone wants to come to America, especially at that time. And so but that was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because although I had a really great childhood, I grew up in an environment that was things were not in order, not organized, poor infrastructure, and so forth. My mom always tried to keep everything as organized and beautiful. She's
Well, that's a
very,
mom.
very gifted, my mom, and she just knows how to beautify everything. Yeah, so, but going to Kenya was really strategic to my life purpose, which, you know, we'll get into a little bit, but going to Kenya allowed me to start my journey of loving Africa in a very real way, because for the first time I saw people that looked like me in a city that was so beautiful. I mean, Nairobi is in some ways like New York. You know, you have your skyscrapers, you have people all over the place, and, and I never
And you
seen
wasn't
that.
used to sky.
I never seen that.
I'm glad you said that. 'Cause when people think of Africa, they
No, right.
it's so yeah.
I never think
that's
of
beautiful, yeah.
skyscrapers in Africa anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, you might think that, oh, people here, when they think of Africa, they think about, you know, underdevelopment, but even those of us who are there, depending on where you grow up, right, you know what you know based on your surroundings.
Exactly.
But so that's why travel is so powerful, because when you travel now, you really get exposed and get educated in a way that a classroom can't. And so for me, that was the best gift my mom gave me, because
a good gift,
you know, knowing your identity is
Yes.
is so important. Yeah, so for me, being in Kenya allowed me to embrace my own identity, to start loving Africa. And from, you know, fast forward, I eventually came here, and I my background is in business. So I business and ministry, actually. I call myself a marketplace minister.
Hey, I like that. I like that.
But I live in Dallas with my husband Divine and our two children.
Why did you choose Texas out of every state in the United States? Why Texas?
Well, it's real simple. I applied to a graduate school and I got a scholarship at the school here in Texas, so I came.
Okay, there you
Well,
Yeah, it
tell
gets
us a
simple.
little bit about CLife.
Okay,
Very interesting.
absolutely. So, CLife stands for Christian Life. It's a nonprofit that I started about 8 years ago. And so I'll just give a little backstory. So earlier I mentioned my love for Africa beginning in Kenya. And so while in Kenya, I traveled to many African countries in Eastern and South Africa. And one of the beautiful things that I saw was that Africa is very beautiful, and we are very gifted, right? But then one of the things that I always baffled me, I'll say, is, so what is our problem if we have all this abundance, right? Of minerals, of people, of culture. So then what is our problem? Why can we, it just seems like we can't get over this gap of getting to the next level of where we are to be.
Girl, ain't nothing but the devil.
I hear you. It is.
It really is.
You know,
Yeah.
it's never just flesh.
Yeah.
You know, it is
It's so-
spirit and flesh. You know, we wrestle not against flesh and blood.
But spirit.
The spirits, right? Yeah. So that was something that always baffled me, and the longer I spent time in Africa, among African people, or just being exposed to what was going on in the continent, I realized that there was one fundamental problem:
Oh.
Okay, what was that?
leadership.
Oh.
Leadership. So I believe that our biggest problem in Africa is not that we're poor, is that we have poor leaders.
But how did you come to that conclusion, leadership?
I think is, sometimes when you get exposed to people and organizations that maybe we lead, and then also when you get exposed to how our countries are run, you realize that with all the same things that we possess, there is just this one thing that seems to transcend all the countries, because Africa is very diverse, many different cultures, but what is it that this one problem that puts us together? So the countries that have excelled and come out of that trap that we have been in underdevelopment, what has happened? So countries like Ghana, so what happened to Ghana for Ghana to come out and excel? It's their leadership. Countries like Rwanda now, when you think about Rwanda, you might be thinking about Rwanda for the genocide. But they had a really nasty past. But they did some incredible work of reconciliation, of peace between the tribes, between themselves as a nation, something that we can learn in America, the process that they went through in order for that peace and reconciliation to exist.
Right.
But it was leadership, top leadership, that led things that now Rwanda is a country to be reckoned with.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
to be reckoned with indeed, right? And then you have other countries that are coming up, and the things that cause them to change is when leadership takes its position of having a heart for God, having a heart. They might not say God directly, but really having a heart for the people.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
and wanting to do good by the people. The democracy might not look the way that the West or America might think democracy looks like, but that doesn't matter. Democracy doesn't have to look the same
Exactly.
in every country.
Exactly.
You have to have governance that works for the people.
For
That's
the
right.
people.
And that's
Period.
important.
And
Yeah.
you know, it's not funny that you speak of leadership, because not only in Kenya, in Africa, or any other country, America leadership is like
Tainted.
Yeah.
tainted,
That's the
toe up,
word.
messed up, screwed up,
Yeah, and I feel like that's
and
what we
needs some
here.
come up.
I'll just say real talk.
Yeah, just real talk.
And then we
That's
can,
just what
we
it
can
is.
learn from a lot of countries.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we have to, like you said, we have to get a hold and get that leadership, because even in our own homes, you can't go outside and try to tell somebody else what to do when your house tore up.
Yeah.
You can't. Even in the Bible, it says to take the order of certain leaderships. You must be a man of one wife, and your home has to be in order.
In order. That's
It has
the
to
key.
be in order.
In order.
That's right.
In order for you
Absolutely.
to try and lead and govern someone else, you got to have your stuff together.
Absolutely.
I said, okay.
You know, the thing about we might digress a little bit, but I want to comment on what you said. The thing about our culture as an African people, I'm including African Americans, all of us, right? When we came from Africa to America, we brought our culture with us.
Yes.
And sometimes if we don't really have a strong understanding of the beauty of our identity, the beauty of our culture, we let go of some things in the
To
name
fit
of
in.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
yes, in the name of fitting
And then
in.
also,
It fit in.
it was stripped from us too, so a lot of people don't know the history, or the history of our traditions and things like that.
Because they didn't understand. So,
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying it was stripped. If you were enslaved, all that stuff was stripped from you, and then it would be passed down from generation to generation. But a lot of times when people from other cultures or countries do move here, they do kind of lose because they do want to fit in. They want to sound more like, I've met people from other countries and they come here and they try to sound American.
right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're gonna go talk more about CLife, but we're gonna take one quick break. Okay. We'll be right back.
The 7 leadership and business skills I acquired from CLife gave me the opportunity to open a rabbit farm, and I'm also financially free.
Before coming to CLife, I was not a believer. Mr. Ray advised me to write down all the points that made me not to believe in Christ, which I did. There were 43 points actually. But today, I can assure you, I'm a believer. I believe in Christ. I believe in Him as my personal Lord and Savior. Thank you, CLife. Thank you, Mommy Sheila. Thank you, everyone.
Through CLife's Servant Leadership Fellowship Program, CLife has trained well over 220 leaders who are out providing health services to the sick, giving orphans and street kids new hope. They are cleaning the gutters and streets of their communities, teaching the next generation with passion, opening businesses that solve prominent community needs. These marketplace ambassadors for Christ are out and about, doing their work with integrity and excellence, all for God's glory. This is what Africa needs. Give today to support this work. Show your own love for Africa through the generosity of your donation.
Welcome back. And we're still here with Miss Sheila. So Miss Sheila, let's get back to the question, the issue of leadership.
Yes, I was saying before the break that the biggest problem Africa has as a continent is a leadership problem. So, so what is the leadership problem, right? So some of the leadership problem is, number one, corruption. All right, so we have leaders that will be in power, but they are there for themselves and their families or their tribes, right? And then they're there and they don't want to give up power, so they want to stay in power, not thinking about the goodwill of the people, right? So you have the corruption problem. You also have the problem of the leaders not creating systems and structures that will help us succeed. So, for example, we talk about America first. We talk about wanting to make sure that our the labor laws that we have are not taking the jobs from America to somewhere else. So we want our leaders in Africa in general, we want them to negotiate contracts with the Western world that will not put us at a disadvantage. Okay, a good example. Okay, Cameroon is a country that has produces cocoa. Right. So we're a big cocoa producer, but we don't make we make chocolate, but very little. Right. So we export all this cocoa at a very little price, but then it comes back to us in chocolate at a very expensive price, right? But we're not negotiating those contracts. We're not getting industries to come and build their chocolate factories in Africa and to educate the young people to be able to manufacture this cocoa into chocolate, right? And then later on, that technology is transferred from here, the more developed world, to us. Right, that maybe 2 years or 3 years after, we don't need them to be in the manufacturing plants in Cameroon. So we're not negotiating those kind of contracts. We're not negotiating for Toyota to come and build a plant over there in Cameroon. Those are the kind of contracts we want our leaders to negotiate so that we use our raw materials in a way that is from start to finish goods. You see. So because those kinds of contracts are not being negotiated, the people suffer.
And that leads to like you're being stripped of the materials there, like the countries in Africa are being stripped and they get nothing for it. So it's like a lot of crime and stuff happens because of that.
All of that. So
like your cell phones, all that stuff that we use here is just being stripped from there.
That's right. So what's the ripple effect? Is crime, right? On a high unemployment, there's especially a very high unemployment among the youth. So Cameroon, for example, is a very highly literate country. So the people are very educated. So they leave university, but they come out, a lot of the young people, they don't have jobs. We're talking about, when I say unemployment, I'm talking about like 30% unemployment. It's hard to fathom. It's hard to understand that a young person will leave the university with a bachelor's, master's, and sometimes PhD. They can't find work for years. I'm talking years, right? So with all these problems, we have that leadership problem that leads to the high unemployment problem. The third one, which is the most important as far as I'm concerned, is a spiritual problem, right? So when you think about Africa in general and you look at Cameroon specifically, our problem is not that we don't know about the gospel. We know about Jesus Christ. We love him. We serve him with sacrifice. We pray and fast. I mean, our faith is so amazing to see how we believe God for great things and miracles, right? So it's not that we don't know God, but it is that our discipleship, when you look at discipleship, applying what we know about God to every area of our life, especially our professional life, our career life, is what is lacking. So we believe God in the church, we believe God in the miracles, but
do we believe that? You don't leave it there. You don't take it everywhere with you.
Do we believe God in the natural things that when you go to work as an accountant, if you're trained as an accountant, when you go to work, God cares about your work. God cares that you do a good job. God cares that you do your work with integrity. God cares that you show up on time. You know, like you don't need any prayers and fasting for that. You just need to You just need to be disciplined
Yeah.
and live according to the standards that a Christian needs to live.
That remind me of something I listened to earlier when the guy was like, God's everywhere. And that's true. Like,
He
even in the
is.
places you
Yes.
think that he's not. Like, they were talking about, he's like, God's in the strip club too. Like, he's going to be everywhere. It's not like he's watching you
Yeah,
or anything.
that's
But you know,
right, but-
it's like he's
Yeah.
everywhere. And that's true.
He's
Yeah.
omnipresent.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's
So,
everywhere.
I mean, can you imagine having a country that says, okay, we are 80% Christian and we are very, very spiritual, right, in how we operate. But then these same people are in the marketplace, right? So what happens there? You're in the marketplace, you're a governor, you're a mayor. How come your Christian faith doesn't lead in the decisions that you make?
Right.
So those are the kind of dilemma that
And I feel like if they do, there'll be more integrity in what you're doing.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Exactly. And so that is why CLife exists. It was important to get that background out because it will be hard to understand the approach we have taken when it concerns development in Cameroon and in Africa. We really believe at CLife, our vision is that we'll see servant leaders transforming their own communities in Africa with integrity and excellence for the glory of God. We believe that the people themselves will change Africa or Cameroon, right?
Yes.
So we just have to create the environment. We have to provide the training. We have to provide the encouragement, coaching, and motivation for them so that they realize their giftings and their talents, and then they start getting that connection between their faith and their work.
Yes.
And they see how it works together, that God cares about
Yes.
their work.
Absolutely.
You know, and work is a form of worship unto the Lord.
Yes.
So they start getting that in the training that we give them, and soon they start excelling. It's just like the way we treat our children here, right? What do? Right? The kids, as they start getting older, we put them in different things, right? Soccer, football, you know, cheerleading, dance, and all that. We put them in those different things so that they can realize their potential.
Yes.
Right? They can see what they're good in. Then they kind of come to their own. That's the same approach that we are taking, but taking it from a very strong leadership and faith point of view, right? So leadership is our core,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
And then the bridge that we use is career development. So it's faith to work
Okay.
with a very strong leadership.
Okay,
bent.
okay.
Yeah. So that's what we do at CLife, right? I can go into more detail, but I'll let you.
Well, speaking of more detail, as I was doing my research and trying to find out who Miss Sheila is and what she stands for and what she represents, I also was looking at, and I really, really, really took this to heart because it's the impact of CLife. CLife has produced hundreds of leaders, training cohorts, over 3,000 community service, you know, hours for people, you know, helping them doing that. And you have multiple projects and it just goes on and on. But oh my God, this, you guys, you ladies, let me say, 36,709 lives were impacted just from
Wow,
CLife
that's amazing.
alone. Miss Sheila, this has touched a lot of people. 36,000. You don't. Some counties don't even have 36,000 people. Some cities. I went to a city here about an hour and a half from Dallas. They only have 2,000 people.
So we're changing counties. Praise God.
Yeah. So, I mean, all glory be to God. And, you know, God has really blessed you with CLife and the impact that it has on, I mean, thousands and thousands of lives, you know. And speaking of the leadership, you have people that are being trained to become such great leaders.
Yeah,
And not in just one area, though.
that's right.
It's in a lot of areas. We have the most, like you said, most important, spiritual. I mean, without being spiritual and connected to God, having a relationship with God, and like you say, our leaders, they need to connect with God and get that understanding, because I'm going to go back to our famous book, which is the Bible, and it does say that you have to be good stewards, you know, and there's a leadership chart that I personally go by, and it's God, Jesus, man, husband, the wife, and then the children.
That's right.
There's order.
There's order, absolutely, absolutely.
And the leadership, you know, it's so many women trying to be leaders when it's not your calling. It's not for you to do. You cannot tell your
how
husband
can you
what
say
to
it's
do.
not their calling? She's
No,
a leader.
what I'm no,
She
not
means in
that
the
type.
home. Is
I'm
that
talking
what
about in the home. There is order, you know, and
Absolutely.
you have so many different women. I don't need a man, you know. This is not about that, but it ties in to leadership and being allowing God to lead you. And you, if you have a husband or a man, and even if the man is living alone by himself, he still has to connect with God to get leadership decisions, you know, to know how to carry out everything. Our government, the home, education, you know, the training, everything. And Miss Sheila with CLife, awesome job.
Oh, thank you so much. You know, yes, you know, what you're saying is absolutely right. God is a God of order. And the impact really is, I feel, is also directly linked to my calling, like how God prepared me.
Yes.
Because I was in the marketplace as a leader. Just at a very young age, I'd always been leading, but I didn't understand that about myself,
Yes.
right? But my career in business took me into an environment where I was leading lots of teams, right, in the U.S. And I always felt like a fish out of water because I'm a woman, I'm African with a very heavy accent in Texas, and I'm leading several people that are older than me and know way more than me.
Do
right?
you feel like you fell out of place because it was your environment of leadership, or
No, I just felt like, and especially I was young. I was young and in a position of leadership of several teams, and I just felt like, what am I doing here? Many a times I look around the room and I'm like, why am I here? You know how sometimes,
Yes.
especially when you're starting off in life, you get put into places that you're like, I feel like I don't belong here. Like, how did I get here? But God is doing it for a purpose.
Yes.
And I understood much later because in the leadership, like when I graduated from graduate school in Waco, Texas, I got into my first real career.
Okay.
And I got into a leadership college, right? I'm not going to call the name of the company, but the company was an incredible company, right? And so they really taught me leadership, but they gave me the opportunity to lead at a high level. And so that is what really helped me develop my leadership skills. You know, so down the line now, I felt called into ministry, which at the time I didn't have a word for it. I just knew that God wanted to do more with my life. I needed to go closer to Him, right?
Yes.
And so that is why I left. I used to live in Houston. I left Houston. I came to Dallas, quit my job, moved to Dallas to go to seminary.
Okay.
And so while I was in seminary, I was like, okay, God, I'm here. Like, what are we doing? You know? And I felt like, okay, my corporate American marketplace life is over. Now I'm doing ministry.
okay. Yes.
But you know, God never wastes anything.
Yes,
You're right.
So in the process of now me really getting to learn about God and learning how real the Bible is.
Yes.
Seeing evidence in,
Yes.
in history, in the books, in archaeology and all of that.
Yes.
My foundation of my faith became so much stronger being in seminary. Now, CLife made sense when he revealed it to me, because now he made me understand that, I want you to take your faith and your marketplace leadership experience and put those two together
Yes.
and now lead this
it.
movement
Yes.
that we're
Yes.
doing at CLife. And so the impact is that we are able to use now we're able to now expose our young people in cohorts. They go into a 4-month intensive cohort. We've just finished our 15th cohort. Yes, and we're about to start our 16th cohort, 15th cohort. And what we do is we don't specify what area of leadership the young people will get into, just like what you were saying, right?
Yeah.
We just expose them in 3 key areas. Spiritual discipleship, so we have Christian discipleship, which focus on a basic fundamental of our Christian faith. Bible study methods. Teach them how to read the Bible for themselves.
Yes.
Know how to have a quiet time.
Yes.
Right? Know how to share their faith and their
Yes.
testimony. Those fundamental things that we have to know as Christians. And now we move them into servant leadership. What does it mean to be a servant leader? You can't lead others until you learn to lead yourself. So we teach them self-leadership
Exactly.
and all those things. Conflict resolution. Conflict is normal. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
They need to know that conflict is normal. In Africa,
Yes.
that's a big deal because you see a lot of conflict that goes on in among the tribes, among the different languages. Cameroon is French and English, so we're fighting against each other. But do we hear often that we're being taught how to resolve conflict? But the Bible tells us how to resolve conflict.
does.
Very directly, it does. So we teach them that. We teach them public speaking, how to speak.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that it attracts young people because they are shy, right? They don't know how to speak. So they come to us very shy. They leave being able to speak for themselves, right?
Absolutely.
Confident.
Very
Yes.
confident. Very. You hear that in the stories over and over again. You know, when I
Yes.
came to CLife, I didn't know this, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And, now I can speak. I'm more confident. Husbands come, then they get their wives to come.
Yes. Leadership.
Wives come, they get their husbands to come.
Leadership.
The sisters bring the brothers, the
Yes.
mentors bring the mentees.
Yes,
So when you see all of that
absolutely.
happen, you know that God is working.
Yes.
There is quite an impact. And so we take them through that. And the last part is career development, which we do CV writing, interviewing, how to brand themselves online, LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff. So we really just prepare them that when they step into the marketplace, they are competing at a higher level. And the fact that they're representing God, they're competing to having a greater consciousness that they want to lead with integrity. They want to lead with service.
Yes.
So it's not about you.
Absolutely.
It's not about you. It's about the people you're
Yes.
leading, right?
Yes.
It's about
Yes.
the people you're leading.
Yes.
And it's to find out. And we are, at CLife, we have 3 E's. So the first E is like being an example. So we really want to be an example as an organization to them by showing them what servant leadership looks like. So we are very intentional about how we care for them, how we make sure that they're fine, not only during the program, but even after the program. We visit them in their workplace. We pray with them at their workplace. We help them. We ask them, so how are you living out the
So you don't just
no, we
kick
don't
them out and done with them.
because if you see on our logo is CLife, which stands for
Life.
Christian Life. C is for Christian Life, and underneath it says it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
it's,
I
it's
saw
not
that.
it's not a training.
It's not.
It's
Yeah.
a
Lifestyle.
lifestyle because it's lifestyle
Yes.
that will make the difference.
Exactly.
I'm glad you spoke on that because that was something I was going to ask you about. And so here you are.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
All right.
Take a good day, make it great, okay? 'Cause it ain't got some lemons, make
All right, welcome back to Women of Abundant Wealth. Now, Sheila, I did want to ask about the unemployment rate we're talking about. Is it that jobs are not available, or is it just a lack of skills?
Good question. It is, in some ways, is both. The older people are in positions for a very long time and they don't retire early, right? That's one. The second one is that people get jobs not necessarily because of the skill they have, but they get job because they know someone or this person
That's
is in the
everywhere,
part
I
of
believe.
their tribe, yes, and so forth. So so there's that. Then the lack of skill sometimes is based on I believe that sometimes we move a little slower than the West might be moving because of the structure of technology. It's not as robust as it needs to. But one of the things that makes America really unique is that America, we have a very entrepreneurial spirit, right? So that is the kind of spirit that we want to ignite amongst the Cameroon people, that the young people that we're training. We want them to know that they don't need to be always looking for work, but they can create work, right? By starting their own business and so forth. And that is what has happened. We have young people who have left our program and they have their barber shop, right? They created their own clinics. They have schools, accounting schools. They are taking care of. They're creating non-profits where they're taking care of orphans and street kids. There's stories upon stories of all these young people now that have their own organizations and they're creating their own things. Young ladies love to bake, baked beautiful cakes. Didn't know she could create a business from it. Came through our program. She got encouraged and skilled, so she started her own bakery.
Wonderful.
So things like that. Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So with the skill sets and the entrepreneurship and the leadership, is it more, what would you say the age ratio is? I know you said that the older people, they get in positions, they don't
And I was
retire.
about to say, what's the retirement age?
I don't know.
They don't have a work as long as you want.
They like in wheelchairs.
Please put in the
they-
chat if you know.
they
If
still
you're
get-
from Cameroon and you know what the retirement, I don't know.
And do y'all provide like any type of assistance, like education assistance, grants, or any of those things to help the entrepreneurs or in the education department?
Well, yes, there are, but it's not as known as it should be. So that's a kind of awareness that we have to provide them, like where to connect with the resources. Like even here, sometimes you have those resources, but you don't even know that they're available. So we try to bridge that gap to give them the resource. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I know that community is very important to you. I saw on your social media that you are part of a community group. Can you tell us about that group?
Yes. So the full name for CLife is called CLife Community. Very intentional. There was something we said much earlier in the show about really keeping on to our identity. There's a power in community, to have us change bad habits. And there's a power in community to have us excel to levels that we never thought possible. There's just a power in community, and we cannot lose that as a people. This is a culture that we took from Africa. We brought it here, and it still exists here. We cannot lose it.
Right.
We cannot be individualistic. That doesn't help build and develop us as a people. So, there's the church is the place where we still maintain that community, right? We talk about life change. Life change happens more effectively in the context of community. So because our training is not just a training, it's a lifestyle, we put our young people in small life groups so that they're doing life on life relationship while they're going through the training program. And our desire and hope is that after the training program, they will have real friendships that they can continue to create businesses together. And after they go through our program, they're put into an alumni network group. And so in that group, we're sharing information. We're if there are jobs somewhere, we're sharing it and posting it, and people are connecting. If people have projects, they're working together. So that's what we want to build, a strong network, so that we can continue to develop the community from the ground up. Yeah.
And you have a mission statement, I believe. I don't know how you say it, but something about like-minded people. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I saw it said like-minded people in the community build success or something to that effect.
That's right. So our mission is that we are going to train and develop the next generation of young professional Africans that will now start doing the transformation themselves.
Okay.
And that's our mission each day.
I love it.
Now, that brings me to this. Now, it's African led, Christian based. CLife is a lifestyle, Christian life, correct? Now, is this just for Africa? How do you make the difference in Africa? I know you say we develop leaders, but we speak of Africa. Is this also international? How do we, as you say earlier, bridge that gap? How do we get to Africa? Or do we have to go to Africa? Tell us about that.
Okay, great question. That's a beautiful question. So it is in Africa. Very intentional. It's really gonna stay in Africa because the program is for Africa. But it is not for Africa alone. We want to connect, especially America, because this is my second home.
Yes.
Right? We want to connect America to Africa. Right. We want to connect African Americans to Africa, right? Have you ever, being African American, have you ever felt like, I want to go to Africa, but I don't know how,
We definitely
I don't know who,
Yeah.
I don't know
All the time.
how to get there, Well, here's CLife, here's Sheila, right?
We go to Africa.
Come to Africa. It's just it's a bridge that we want to create, right? That we could be able to take teams to CLife, where you can partner with us, create your own scholarship
Because I
fund.
do have a partnership.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Create your own scholarship fund. Maybe you have your own business that you decide, like, you know what, I want to make a difference in Africa, and I know that the best way to make a difference is to pour it in leadership, especially leadership that is faith-based. So you say, I'm gonna create a fund of $5,000, $10,000. It might seem small here, but my goodness, you know how far that goes?
Oh, wow.
That goes so far. So what we want to encourage everyone that is watching is, if you have any interest, I call it those who love Africa. On our website you see, I love Africa. I love Africa.
Yes.
If you really love Africa, come and partner with us.
Yes.
We can take you there. You can create a fund that will help us do all what we do. We're a nonprofit. The way that we are able to exist is because people give. Right. So we want to create that the financial part for you to partner. We want to create the physical part where you can go and really be able to see Africa for yourself. Really be inspired by these young people. Visit some of their offices.
Get the first hand.
It will be a trip like no other.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm hoping that we'll get, once we start going on these trips will be able to come back and,
Yes.
and share about those dates and so
Yes.
forth. But that is a dream. It is my own
And it's
personal
coming true.
dream.
It's coming true.
It's coming true.
It's very
It
personal
is,
for me.
yes. It's gonna manifest itself.
Hey, so we've enjoyed you, Miss Sheila.
Yes.
All the great nuggets that you've given us.
Thank you.
I hope that I do get to go to Africa.
Oh, you're all invited.
We going. Come go with us. We going to Africa.
Amen.
We are going to Africa.
Yes. So we want to thank you for joining us, as well as we want to thank our viewer audience for
Yes.
joining us. And until next time, we just want to say everybody be great. No matter what is going on, have a great day always.